Shri Rama Jaya Rama Shri Rama Jaya Rama Shringara Ramayani Chintincharadavo Manasa Shri Rama Jaya Rama Shringara Ramayani Chintincharadavo Manasa.
We are today with Srimati Chandana Bala Kalyan ji, who is a very renowned Carnatic music vidwan and has also been very experimental about music when it comes to other genres. And we'll attempt to learn more about her experiences, music, kids, babies, and around these topics today. So, Chandana ji, namaste.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for interviewing. We'll go right to your childhood and to the place you were born, and your father is a very well-renowned musician.
Yeah.
If you could take us through the journey that you had with your father and your very, very early childhood, if we were to start from there, and maybe even your father's.
Sure. Yeah, so I'm born in a musical family. My father is a violinist, Dr. S. Natarajamurthy, and my mother, though she is not a trained singer, she has been singing ever since I was born. I've only heard her sing through her troubles actually, and sing through all the work that she used to get along with, and then sing through all the chores. And so basically she has been a very, very passionate singer, but we are the known musicians in the family,
Right.
my dad and I. And so I was born in Nidubrolu,
Okay.
which is a very small town in Andhra Pradesh, and then my dad was working with ISRO when I was born. So we were in Sriharikota, and that's a very small, it's like an island, and also metaphorically for music as well, it is an island because there's hardly any opportunity. There was, I think, like one concert in a year, and which was organized by my father himself, and invariably it was one of us in the family who would be singing. And so just that kind of an environment. And but we were made to practice, both me and my older sister, we were made to practice very systematically. And when I was 5 years old, my father took a decision that we should move to Bangalore because the prospects were better there, and he also had an option to shift his jobs. So in 1985 we came to Bangalore,
Right.
and my parents have been there ever since. In Bangalore, the environment was mostly, it was mostly the Carnatic classical music environment at
Right.
home, and also the circuit of musicians that we mostly spent our time with. My school was played a very, very significant role in my development as a musician, because one of my music teachers in school, his name is Sri Lakshmi Keshwa sir. He was extremely encouraging, not just to me but also to all the students who ever had shown a little bit of interest in singing. I think he kind of brought us all together. We had an Indian choir group, and we were performing everywhere. We were going to sing invocations, we were going places to sing, sometimes patriotic songs, sometimes light songs.
In what age was this?
This was, I think, when I was 7, 8 onwards.
Okay.
So till I finished my 10th standard, right from my first standard to my 10th standard in this school, Sri Vani High School, both my principal Shamsundar Sharma sir and Lakshmi Keshwa sir were very instrumental in developing our talent and helping us get rid of stage fright. And because in that age it's very important that not just that you're singing to yourself but also singing to an audience.
Right.
And so the kind of platforms that we got at that time was simply amazing. Sometimes we were singing to really serious organizers, sometimes we were just singing to a bunch of people who didn't care. There were some political functions, the CM was invited. They were just all political, discussions happening, and we would just be waiting there to sing our invocation and the national anthem or some patriotic song or something like that. So that is how my childhood has been, and most of the hours, both I must say in school and off school, were spent in music, because my father used to make sure that we practiced, both me and my sister practiced adequately every day. So we were practicing early in the morning sometimes, like even when I was as young as 10 years old. My dad used to wake us up at 4 in the morning, and we would practice from 4:30 to 6, and then get ready for school at 7:30.
Right.
And again, once we came back from school, it was music again. And during school, like I said, because we were singing in so many places, we would be singing light songs and patriotic songs, but still it was singing all the way. So it's mostly music that kind of had taken over my childhood.
Right. And if you look at, so at the age of 10, is it right to say you were basically getting exposed to broader genres of music while you were at school, and Carnatic classical at home?
You could say that, yes. Because when we were in school, so the songs that we were taught by our sir were mostly patriotic songs, but songs in different languages as well.
Right.
Like there was this Bengali song that we were singing, sometimes there was an Oriya song that we were taught, sometimes it was a Malayalam song that we were taught. So we were also exposed to different languages.
Right.
And it was funny for us at that time to be singing these words which we never understood, but we just learnt it by the ear, not knowing the meaning. And sometimes we would mispronounce those words, but we would still sing those songs, And because we were also kind of interacting with a lot of musicians, I was exposed to music that was other than Carnatic.
Right.
At a pretty young age, because I was 12 when I heard, I still remember vividly being at a friend's place and listening to the first ever ghazal that I heard in my whole life.
Okay.
And it was Hariji's Hazir album, and I was listening to this beautiful compositions. I think it was Sheher Dar Sheher, if I'm not mistaken, and I was listening to that song, and I remember wondering where all those gamakas are coming from. It was so different from the way I was sounding, so I was trying to decipher, how does one sing like that? How does one bring out all those gamakas? But that's when I became a very, very staunch follower of Hariji, and at that time it was not so easy listening to different genres of music, because even getting to lay your hands on a cassette was so difficult. You had to go all the way so many kilometers to a cassette shop, buy that cassette. If you didn't have it, place an order, wait till it came. So those were very precious.
In the 90s.
In the 90s, 92, 93 I'm talking about. Whenever Hazir was released, I think 94 maybe it was. And then of course, once the CDs, and it was more easy to buy CDs, it was more easy to share music from friends and just take it. Now it is so easy. You just share an MP3, or you just find it on YouTube, you find it on Spotify. But at that time it was quite a journey, trying to get your hands on a song that you wanted to listen to one more time.
Absolutely.
So that's how it has been, like mostly the Indian genres only that I was exposed to. I was not really listening to much of Western, though my friends would sometimes make me listen to some albums. There was this one time when I listened to a song by Boney M, and I remember being very fascinated by it. And but most of, till my I think 15th, 16th year, it was mostly the Indian genres that predominated my.
Right. Right. Amazing. So, before actually coming to you becoming at the age of 10 and 15, once again go back to 3-4 years old, even maybe 2 or 1 year old, and it's a privilege to really have such an eminent musician as a father. And even though one might not remember as early as 2 years and 3 years, in all possibility, whatever father was playing and singing and his practice and he waking up in the morning, that would certainly have had influences.
Yes, of course.
So if you could talk to us through those influences, how was the atmosphere in childhood? Did dad really make you sit in one place and teach, and was that a formality, or it was more of there is music happening in the house and you're just catching on to it?
So, like you said, I don't remember much about the very first 3-4 years maybe, but my mother keeps telling me that, I was very small, like I was literally crawling when my father would be playing on the violin, and I would show a lot of interest and crawl towards the violin and try to
Right.
go and sit on his lap and try to, strum the strings or whatever. That
Right.
I did show a lot of interest towards music. And when I was extremely small, apparently as young as my mother says that I try to sing even before I try to speak. That
Yeah.
she has all these claims that she
Yeah,
makes. I mean, I don't know
yeah.
how far they're true, but she keeps telling me that I was trying to, whatever my dad used to play on the violin, I used to try and sing.
Right.
And most of it used to be in the right place. Like there used to be a certain Shruti. And I think when I was 3 or 4 years old, I think my father realized that I have this thing called Swarajnanam, where I was able to just translate swaras without being told what those swaras were.
Right.
So when he recognized the talent, he taught me informally for, I think, till my age of 6 or 7. He taught me informally. So I
Right.
was just sitting on his lap and learning more, maybe up to Geetams.
Right.
After that, he started a very systematic practice regime, and like I would be made to wake up early in the mornings, and we would practice quite a bit. So the Sarali Varases, he used to make us do the Akara sadhana. And then he would just teach us composition. Sometimes I would be alone as well, and he would be teaching me a composition, and he would just like how we are now writing notations, he would just ask me to sing the swaras.
Okay.
So that I knew what the notation was. So though I didn't know to write the notation, I knew what the notation was, so that I would remember that these are the swarasthanas for that particular phrase or whatever.
Right. And if we see the most recent example, Take 5, and all the other really complicated genres of music that you have attempted and experimented, what you're saying right now, at the age of 6 and 7 and 8, the notations and really identifying the swaras, you believe this had an impact?
That's the only thing that has had an impact, actually. I mean, I can't, sometimes I'm overwhelmed with gratitude for the sincerity with which my dad taught me.
Yeah.
He taught me with so much of, it was like, I don't know how many innumerable times he must have taught me that in that manner, for me to be able to just learn it by the ear and not really follow write it, because in that age you really don't know to write.
Right.
So it has to be repeated that many times, and that many times the scope for going wrong is also there. So that many times you have to be corrected. So he's just done it so many times. And also another really great thing that my father always followed and he implemented in his teaching is that he never made me stick only to the Sarali verses prescribed in the text.
Right.
Sometimes teachers tend to just follow that, and then the alankaras that are prescribed only in the text.
Right.
He always used to say, okay, now make up your own alankara. Whatever your swara pattern you want to sing, make up your own alankara. Till this day,
Right.
that is what is my, it's like my Ramabarna. For anything, if I have a difficulty with a particular phrase, I know the answer. I work on an alankara based on that particular movement of phrase, and then that helps me kind of get comfortable with various permutations and combinations of that particular phrase, and then I'm comfortable singing it,
Right.
So yeah, like you rightly said, that is actually the most significant. The foundation years are very, very important.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's played a very significant
That
role.
really shapes the network in the brain, how one thinks.
Exactly, yeah, exactly.
Anything around your father's childhood?
So my dad belongs to a very big family of 9 children.
Okay.
So the things that my father has told me is about how my grandfather used to practice,
Right.
and my father used to play the tambura
Okay.
for him to listen to
Okay.
and practice. And he used to say that there was it's like they would actually fall asleep playing the tambura. And because they were so small, they would actually, but they would still be playing. They would be asleep, but their fingers would still be moving.
Right.
It was like so. And there was also a very musical environment in that house, because early in the morning there were a lot of students.
And where was this place? It's the same.
Bapatla. It was in
Bapatla. Okay.
Bapatla.
Okay.
And for a long time my grandfather was just a full-time musician. He did not work anywhere.
Right.
But later he took up a job as a theory professor in Vijayanagara Music College.
Okay.
But that was after all the kids moved out of their houses and they were doing different things. They were working in different parts of the country.
Right.
So,
And the fact of him sleeping while playing the tanpura. In fact, when I was speaking to Shalmali Tai, she mentioned at 4 a.m. in the morning she would sing, and her son Tejo Purush Rana, we call, he would sleep in her lap and just sleep, and then when the sum comes he would say sa, or then he would just kind of make an action, and then he kind of chose tabla as his subject, and he's basically a well sought after tabla player, but kind of just connecting the experiences of your father sleeping and while getting unconscious into sleep and still listening to music.
Right.
This really seems to have had a very subconscious impact on people.
Right. Yes, that's so true. Yeah.
So moving to the time when you were in Bangalore,
and
you were 9-10 years old, your formal education in music, you were training with your father. If you could basically speak around the riyaz or the sadhana till the age of 15, like from 6-7 years till the age of 15, and then even further, how does the riyaz and practice, so one is learning from a teacher, and it's a privilege to have father as a teacher, how does that really evolve for someone so young?
So the first thing is because the bond is so strong, right? From the point of view of the teacher, it's very unconditional.
Right.
There is no swartha in that teaching, like absolutely no thing that they have to give me back this fee, or they have to. So whatever my father taught, it was so unconditional, and it was so what do you say, like it was so open, like there was nothing that was kept to himself. Everything that he knew, sometimes when he was learning something, in the process of learning he has taught me. So from his end, it was a very unconditional kind of learning that I received.
Right.
From my side, I must have thrown my own tantrums when I was a kid. I probably even made excuses sometimes, some alibis to say I don't want to practice today or whatever. I must have made, as a child, being a human being, I must have, had all those. But I think it was when I was 13. I actually, the kind of practice that my father had put in, I realized that by 13 nobody had to tell me anymore to practice.
Right.
I used to have my own timetables, and I used to put my own like schedules, and I used to say, okay, so this week I'll practice this particular varanam, and then this week I'll just practice this particular ragam, or I had that kind of a timetable written. I still have that habit.
Right.
I still kind of write down what I want to practice, and I have a certain timetable. I want to do it within a time frame of a week or 10 days or something. So that kind of a discipline came in very, very early.
Right.
And that was sometimes he used to be a little bit of a very hard with his lessons. Like Bangalore used to be very cold at that time, and if at all we only had manual tanpuras at that time, or we had the Shruti box.
Right.
We didn't still get the electronic tanpura at that time. So if we didn't put the cover on the electronic tanpura, he would make sure that we don't we sleep without the bed sheets. He'd say no, unless you go and cover the tanpura, you can't use the bed sheet. And it used to be really cold. So he would say, you are feeling cold. Similarly, the instrument also will face a lot of changes, expansion and contraction to the weather. So it's important you keep it warm. So he almost treated it like another human being in the house, and that was of course how the discipline was. But there was absolutely no restriction to listen to. In fact, he used to make us listen to Parveen Sultana ji's music quite often. He used to get those cassettes, and he used to make us listen to it. And he was very encouraging about Hindustani, especially Hindustani classical music. And he used to take us to a lot of concerts. So it was all season based for us, like Krishnashtami there would be concerts, then there will be concerts for Ramanavami. Ramanavami is a huge festival in Bangalore. It still is.
Right.
So there are concert venues at 15, 16 very significant places, and then you're going there, and so our day used to be planned around that.
Right.
Okay, so on the 3rd it is this person's concert. So on the 3rd, he'll come early from work so that we get the time to take a bus and go to that place, listen to the music and come back. So everything was planned like that, based on music. We had not too much importance given to examinations or tests or none of that. That was not the.
We used to care about how much marks and all.
Nothing of that sort. Yeah. It was mostly music that was kind of given importance to.
Right. Yeah. And now that you have mentioned concerts, how important is listening to music, listening to good music from masters, and what kind of impact does it have on kids? And the background to my question is, kids today till the age of 8 and 9, when they actually, their parents or they basically think, okay, they need to start learning music. There is a trend nowadays to basically start with some Western, try and introduce them from what Western music looks like, and say, okay, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, this is what is Sarigama, and then teach them Sarigama. Right. As opposed to very young children who have been actually exposed to music, classical music, when they were 3 and 4 years old, the brain has already been able to subconsciously take those complexities in. So for you, it would have been a very easy transition when you're 6, 7 years old, when you started your formal training. So my question comes to how important is listening, whether it is going to concerts or even listening stuff on, the tape recorder and all of that. So.
See, listening has played a very, very important role in my learning.
Right.
And sometimes the pity is we don't even realize how much of a role it has played. Right. Unless and until on some day when we listen back to our own performance and we realize, where is all this coming from? Right. How did we sing that particular Sangati? You may have not ever thought of it consciously. You may have not worked on it consciously. But it's coming from some place. So, even though we call it our Manodharma, our Manodharma is a bank balance of what we have listened to or learned or practiced.
Right.
So it's all accumulated in that Manodharma. So someday when we listen back to ourselves and surprise ourselves, it's only then that we realize, okay, this is all the effect of listening. Right. And listening not just consciously, even the subconscious listening, that's why when you're sometimes, when the children are sleeping next to us, they say that you should say nice things, you should say positive things, because subconsciously also they are ingesting so much from what is being said. So the listening and the brain is still working even though when we are sleeping, right? So the subconscious listening that happens, maybe you could be cleaning your house or you could be doing some other chores and listening, you could be traveling and you could be listening, but you ingest all that. And so listening, for me, it's definitely played a very, very, very important role. And not just for me, sometimes I realize that my son, though he's not actively practiced, I know that some of the compositions he just knows because he's heard me sing. And when he sings it, he's singing it more or less in place without really having to put a conscious effort in practice. Just singing by the ear, but still that he's singing because he's able to remember, recollect, retain from whatever he's,
Right. And coming to your son, what are the experiences you can share? And obviously, you are deeply entrenched in music, singing, listening, and really living and breathing music. So, I'm sure even in his very, very early childhood, when he was months old, and music, he would have been subconsciously, unconsciously being exposed to music. What are the experiences you can share around your son? And
so when he was very small, like when he was maybe 2 years or 3 years old, he used to actually sing, in the sense that whatever I would sing, he would repeat, and he would repeat it in more or less the same swarasthanas. But there came a point when he was a little thrown off music, He didn't want to be associated with it in a systematic manner, you know.
Right.
Though he liked to sing, you know, he would sing his cartoon film title songs, or he would sing his film songs that he liked or something. He would hum them, and while doing his, you know, craft or something, he would be humming them and singing them. But he would never really want to sit cross-legged in the discipline. He didn't like that coming
Right.
with it.
Right.
So at some point, though it hurt me quite a bit, I just kind of let him be, you know.
Right.
I thought there's no point in compelling or forcing, because then I would lose him for good.
Absolutely.
So, but somehow magically in the last 2 years, especially during the lockdown, maybe he was bored of everything else and he said, okay, let me try singing now and
Right.
see if I can kind of keep myself occupied. That's when we started practice together.
Amazing.
So we started sitting just 20 minutes a day. We just started sitting 20 minutes a day. We would sing the Sarali verses, and he would like singing the Sarali verses. He would like singing. He was eager to get the next one right. He was eager to understand what the science behind a particular phrase and the swarasthanas was,
Right.
and how you map a particular syllable of the sahityam to the swara.
Right.
So all these things he actually started getting interested in, and now he is practicing some you know, swarajatis, and he's interested to do that now.
Right.
And now he seems to be pretty serious, and he kind of wants to, though he's not very keen about pursuing it as a career option,
Right.
he definitely is interested to sing, which
Right.
is more or less satisfactory for him.
It would have been a painful 8 years for you as a mother.
It was very difficult. I was completely in denial for the first, but then I realized that I had to take that decision to not force him,
Right.
because sometimes each child has their own aptitude.
Right.
And interest, and his interest was mostly into building, you know. He built a drone when he was 11 years old,
Okay.
all by himself, you know, taking a look at various YouTube videos, and he compelled his father to get a lot of stuff for him, and you know, those spare parts. We would go sometimes all the way up to Lower Parel to get those spare parts for him. He had that kind of an interest,
Okay.
and he was extremely creative in that field.
Right.
So I just thought, you know, he should just be allowed to do. I mean, allowed doesn't, that's a very big term, but then he should just be doing
Have
what he
freedom to do
likes
what he
to.
wants.
Yeah.
But then the most important thing is, Akka, in the last 8-10 years, he still was exposed to music.
Yes.
You were still like singing most of your time at home.
Yeah.
There was music in the home.
Yeah.
And whether he wanted it or not, he was absorbing it.
Exactly.
And in lockdown, is it right to say when the other senses have been controlled,
Yes.
then you started looking more
Inward.
inwards?
Exactly. Yeah.
Is that right to say? Is
Yes,
that
of course. I think you can say that. He turned inward in the sense he looked at something that he had not been so close to for comfort.
Right.
So I think he kind of found some sort of a solace in being able to sing,
Right.
and learn it also in a systematic manner.
Right.
Yeah.
So, Akka, what advice would you like to give today's parents, pregnant mothers, babies, young kids? Because how important is early initiation in music, and you know, your advice to them?
So I feel more than anything, we have to provide the kind of environment, you know, we have to let the children try everything and provide those kind of environments. Like, you could just be playing music to them, or you
Right.
could just show them a few dance moves, or, you know, make them watch a few, because you really don't know what the child has the best aptitude for. To just compel and force somebody to do something which they may not be interested in, or
Right.
they may not have the aptitude for, may turn out to become it may be stressful for the child.
Right.
So it's important to provide that environment
Right.
where they know, they are aware, okay, this thing exists, this kind of a thing exists, okay, there is also this thing that exists.
Right.
And then suddenly you realize that one day they are taking a liking to something.
Right.
The day we notice that this is something that they are interested in, it's important that we let them, you know, give them more opportunities and provide more, facilitate that to kind of grow.
Right.
Now, having said that, music as it is a very therapeutic medium. I mean, all of us. I don't think there is any person in the world who would say, I don't like music or I don't like a song.
Right.
Everybody, invariably, at some point or the other, they'll have one association with a song, right?
Right.
Either they are humming it, or they are just listening to it, or they are, even probably dancing to it. Music has always had a very significant role to play in the world, especially when you look at it from a therapeutic perspective.
Right.
We also, like in our culture, we have chants, we have shlokas, we have these things that are taught to small children. Even if you're chanting Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnu, very few people will actually, without any music, say Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnu. We're not saying it like that. Some music will be there to Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnu Shashivaran. There is a certain movement, melodic movement to every phrase that is being sung. So I feel that if something is played in the background, music is played in the background, it definitely has a very therapeutic effect on the mind. So that can be used as something that can be ongoing,
Right.
no matter what the child is actually doing, even
Right.
playing or craft or lullabies or whatever it may
Right.
be. Yeah. Indian classical music, it has two significant genres. One is the North Indian classical music and the South Indian classical music. Classical music, as it is a very scientific approach
Right.
towards music. It is a very systematically organized, like each exercise is a development over its previous, and every exercise that we go through is a preparation for the next stage.
Right.
So it's a very systematic practice. But if we take away the systematic scientific aspect of it, just by listening to it as a melody itself is definitely therapeutic. But what kind of a scientific impact it may have, or it has, there are a lot of researches going on about there are therapeutic aspects of classical music,
Right.
the impact of ragas on various kinds of mindsets, and various kinds of how they have healing powers, or I don't know. I'm not really the person to talk about it because my study has not really gone much in that direction. But
Right.
generally, if we look at it, if we take away the scientific, it's anyways as a very scientific approach, but if you take away the scientific aspect of it as well, I think it is, it's a great, course to be associated with, a great sense of genre to be associated with.
Right. Thank you so much, Akka, for sharing your thoughts around your childhood, your father's childhood, and even your kid as well. And I think it's been very informative and insightful to get to know someone as eminent as you. So thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thank you so much for having me. श्यामळे मीनाक्षी सुन्दरेश्वर साक्षी शङ्करी गुरुगुह समुद्भवे शिवे वा पामरमोचनि पङ्कजलोचनि पद्मासनवाणी हरिवक्ष्मि विनुते शाम्भवि श्यामळे मीनाक्षी सुन्दरेश्वर साक्षी शङ्करी गुरुगुह समुद्भवे शिवे वा. So this is a Notaswara. Another is Shakti Sahita Ganapatim Shankaradisevitam Virakta Sakala Munivara Suraraja Vinuta Guruguham Shakti Sahita Ganapatim भक्तादिपोषकं भवसुतं विनायकं भक्तादिपोषकं भवसुतं विनायकं भुक्तिमुक्तिप्रदं भूषिताङ्गं रक्तपादं भुजं भावयामि शक्तिसहितगणपतिं शङ्करादिसेवितं विरक्तसकलमुनिवरसुरराजविनुतगुरुगुहं शक्तिसहितगणपतिं शक्तिसहितगणपतिं शक्तिसहितगणपतिम्